I was exposed very early on to glamour and travel and art and music and just culture in general, theater, ballet.
Who was the first person you styled?
In the literal sense, when I was 8 years old, I styled my very dear family friend's son, my parents' best friend's son, because he was constantly wearing tracksuits to school, and I knew that he had a great wardrobe at home because his parents had great style, and I knew he had great clothes, and I went over and I set up his looks Monday through Friday, and I labeled them.
How old
and he wore them 8.
Oh my God.
So, I don't know. I just always felt like people can and should look their best and feel their best. And look, everybody's busy. Everybody's doing a million things. I know we don't have, I don't have more than 15 minutes to get ready on most days, There are days where I don't get to take a shower and I just wash my face and try and look like I showered. But I think that everyone can take an extra 5 minutes to put a little bit of effort in, and whether that means putting on lipstick, changing from sneakers to heels, putting on trousers instead of, sweatpants, whatever it is, brushing your hair, putting it in a top knot, whatever it is that will give you confidence to kind of face your day all day.
You studied psychology at university.
Yes, I did.
So at what point did you decide, no, I'm going to go into fashion?
When I realized that I had to go to many years of after school, when I realized I needed to continue for, the truth is I didn't enjoy being a student. I never did. It wasn't my thing. I managed to be a good student. Basically, if it was a subject I liked, I got an A. If it was a subject that I didn't like, I did not do well in it at all. It was like a struggle for me. And I didn't love being a student. It was very strange. At 16, I was ready to work, but I went through school, I went to college, I did the whole thing. But then when I graduated, it was like I was ready to face the world on my own. I wanted to work, I wanted to earn my own money, I wanted to make a career. And that was just my goal. That was my goal. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just knew that I had to work.
How did your own style evolve?
I don't know. I think I always was very clear about what my style was. I think I grew up in fashion in the world of Tom Ford, Gucci, Saint Laurent, Gianni Versace. It was very much about glam, sexy, bohemia. When that whole kind of minimalism movement happened with Calvin and that whole kind of, sleek hair and, architectural clothes and everything was linear and whatever, I was just like, this is not me. I kind of stuck to who I was because I realized I was never a conformist. It was never my thing. I always did what felt right, not what everyone else was doing. And, I said, if I'm not of the moment, I'm down with that, but I still want to wear a jumpsuit. And, I felt comfortable with that and lots of hair and jewelry. And that was just how I got dressed in the morning or at night. I didn't really think about this isn't the movement happening right now. It was never that calculated. But then when I was styling a fashion story or something, then it was very of the moment, but that didn't have to translate to my personal style.
How would you describe your look today? How would you describe yourself today? Has it changed?
I would say that I'm slightly more polished than I was. I think that when I look back, I was very kind of, very 70s, and whether that was in a bell-bottom or a caftan, wearing 25 necklaces and tons of hair and tons of makeup and da-da-da. And I would say in the last kind of 5 to 7 years, I wear much more kind of tuxedos and suits and tailored jumpsuits and, men's shirts. And I kind of went more kind of European and Parisian in my older age. As a grown-up and as a parent, I think.
I was going to say, it's interesting that you've done that now having 2 kids.
Yes.
Because it's easier to be more boho with kids than...
Yes, but with The answer is yes, but I would say it depends on the time of year, depends on where I am. When I'm in Europe, I dress completely differently than I do in LA. In LA, I'm constantly wearing a caftan or a maxi, or, you know, my thigh-high boots with a big chunky knit sweater, holding a baby on one hand and Skylar in my other hand, and, you know, my 20-pound messenger tote and, you know, across my body. So I think it kind of depends on what I'm doing. But I would say I've definitely gotten, I would say it's more polished, more grown up.
You swapped New York for LA in 2002.
Yes.
And you've talked in the past about the huge disconnect between Hollywood and high fashion at that time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, I think it was, when I moved to LA, there was a huge disconnect. It was kind of like, you know, my friends in New York in the fashion world were like, oh, LA. You know, it was very like looked down upon. And LA was like, the fashion world was something very separate. You know, it was something that, they were just very different worlds. And I didn't understand, you know, I think I went to LA loving LA and not trying to make it New York. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, do you like LA or do you like New York? Are you a New York person or an LA person? I was like, I'm a both person. When I'm in New York, I love New York. When I'm in LA, I love LA, you know? But you have to embrace them for what they are. And I think LA depicts a very certain lifestyle and effortlessness, a very casual lifestyle.
You were actually the first stylist to become a celebrity in your own right as well.
Accidentally, yes.
Yes, no, I'll ask you about that. It wasn't ever a plan?
If you think about it, you know, I set out to be a stylist. You know, my father used to say, you're on the wrong side of the camera. You're meant to be in front. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not, Dad. I'm meant to be behind. I'm meant to be behind. This is where I'm comfortable. I like to provide the service. You know, I was much more comfortable that way.
Your father
Still am.
Yeah, but hello, you are now brand, Rachel. How do you cope with that pressure?
I keep my life very normal, whatever normal is. But in my mind, my life, I keep it very normal. The people around me are very normal, meaning I have very real friends, very real, and very close with my family. My boys are my universe, and my husband, you know, is my everything. And we, you know, this kind of person that people like to create sometimes in the media and build up and knock down, build up again, knock down again, make fun of, not make fun, you know, it's...
You know, it's really cutthroat, especially in the styling area. We watched through the program, or I watched it, you know, you had Taylor and Brad, and they went off and did their own things. How fierce is that competition, and how do you manage to keep, you know, on top of that?
I think that I was very naive, you know, even still to some point, just because you don't want to become angry and bitter.
It's quite nice.
Well, yes, but you do pay for that, you know. You know, I've always thought the best of people. You know, my first and only boss told me that I was too nice to be in this business and that I'd never make it because I wasn't tough enough and that I was way too nice. And, you know, I like to believe that you can be nice and still get where you want to be in your life without stepping on people, without hurting people, still being kind to people, mentoring people. And there are people that are going to take advantage of that, you know, and they have, because we treat our, the team that works with us, we have almost 50 people now, and we treat them like family, every single one of them. And there are about six or seven of them that are our family, you know. And every once in a while, every couple of years, there are bad people that take advantage of that. And, you know, and that's hard. And it doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier. I will say I don't hold the anger the way I used to, because since I've become a mom, I'd rather spend that energy with my kids.
You know, perfectionist.
Yeah. It's a disease.
It is a disease.
It is. It is. It's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse, you know?
Do you see it in either of your kids?
Oh, yes. Skylar already, he doesn't want to do something unless he's good at it. And I keep telling him he doesn't, you know, he just has to try, and not everything. Like, he loves the Beatles, and he sings himself to sleep, and he'll sing the words to the Beatles, like Yellow Submarine or Let It Be. And then if he doesn't remember a certain line, he'll be like, Mommy, I can't sing it. And I'll be like, why? He goes, I don't know the right words. And I'm like, it's a Beatles song and you're 4. You don't need to know the right words. I don't know all the right words. Like, nobody knows all the right words. Like, what are you talking about? So I tell him that he just needs to approach everything and try and do what he loves and not, but it's hard. It's already hard to kind of see that, because I just want him to enjoy himself,
2004, you were responsible for creating the look that actually made Nicole Richie famous. In 2007, you had a very public parting. That must have been a difficult time for you. And the reason I'm asking is because people who go through stuff, it's really good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, she was going through stuff in her life at that point, and I don't know. I think people part. I always wondered at that time why it was so public. Why it mattered to people, why it mattered in the scheme of things. And what was so strange about that time in my life is like, yes, I was working with Nicole. Yes, I was working with Lindsay. Yes, I was working with Misha. But I was also at that time working with Salma Hayek, Jennifer Garner, Demi Moore, Ava Mendes, Cameron Diaz, Kate Hudson. So it was kind of like I never actually understood why everyone was so focused on these 3 girls. It made no sense to me. At the time it didn't, now it doesn't.
Really?
I still don't understand it.
Really?
No, I genuinely don't understand. There was no story.
So the whole story, the anorexia and all of that.
There was no story. That's the thing. And it was funny. A client at the time and friend said to me, Rachel, your life is oddly normal, meaning you have the same husband for 15 years. You are so close with your family. Your sister's your best friend. You speak to your parents 10 times a day. That doesn't make for a good story. You know what I mean? And so they wanted to kind of create something around it. And so I think for me, the hardest part of that time was constantly asking why, constantly not understanding why. I'd never done a drug in my life. Nor would I. It's just not, my thing. It's not interesting to me at all. And, I just felt like I just didn't understand it. Like I was just this really hardworking girl, building my career, working with all different kinds of people. And I think that the frustration for me was it was so unwarranted. It made no sense to me at all because there was nothing true about any of it. Nothing.
Do you think being a mum is the hardest job there is?
It's the best job there is. Lovely. Best job. Anything that's hard. The hardest part for me, to be honest, is to not worry. To me, that's the biggest challenge. It's not hard in terms of actual parenting and decision making. It's hard not to worry that they're always going to be okay and they're not going to get hurt, and that that's kind of the challenge.
What's the secret to a great relationship between a stylist and a client?
Trust, comfort.
Yeah.
I think you have to establish credibility first. I think they have to know that you mean what you say, that they can trust you, they can let their guard down with you, that you've proven that they can listen to you, meaning I do have best interest, in mind. It's not about me, it's about them.